Yo, what's going on? Yeah, welcome back to the Empire Podcast. It's your boy Melo. I'm with Jake. Today we have a good one. We're gonna be talking about the Giants preview for Sunday's game. I think it's a 4 o'clock start against the Broncos. Um, we do have a lot to talk about. It's gonna be a fun one because we did have some controversy going on yesterday. I believe no, actually 2 days ago on Wednesday with a Broncos defensive player talking about Dart, and then we did have one about Nick Bonito, who I think leads the league in sacks. He was talking crazy on Twitter yesterday, and a lot of our players responded. So we'll get into that. And then the Giants for this week's game are underdogs again, so that's a good thing. And then we'll talk about the steps to victory and our score predictions at the end. But let's start off with I think a clip that Jacob wants to show.
Yeah, so what's up, guys? Another podcast. Let's get it. Like Mello said, we got some controversy that's going on between the Giants and the Broncos, and it all started off with Jonathan Cooper, player for the Broncos.
Mhm.
He didn't seem particularly intimidated by Jackson Dart, and he had a couple of words to say towards Dart and what he thinks of Dart so far in his tenure in the NFL. So this is what Jonathan Cooper, player for the Denver Broncos, had to say, linebacker, about the New York Giants and Jackson Dart.
He's a young guy. He's feeling himself a little bit. He's out there running around. He's got the chain on. He's dancing. I feel like everybody needs something. So but we've went against QBs who have ran around the pocket and have tried to do stuff with their legs. So ain't nothing we haven't seen.
So that's what Jonathan Cooper said, and then Brian Dable responded about what was going on between the Broncos and Giants. So he was asked multiple questions today, actually, about the ongoing social media trash talk between the Giants and Broncos. And this is what Brian Dable had to say about all of the trash talk going on between the two teams throughout the week.
Haven't really seen that from the Giants in quite a while. Is that a team that has more confidence now? Is that a team with a little bit more personality and edge than in years past?
Yeah, like I said, right, I think the biggest thing is going out there and playing well on Sunday. And doing the things you need to do during the week to be ready to play a game against a very challenging, like I've talked about on Wednesday, good football team. And that's really the most important thing.
Is that something you address your players, or you just kind of do it?
Yeah, we talk a lot about a lot of things, but the most important thing is how we practice and how we play on Sunday.
What do you think of the Broncos players being dismissive of you guys and their fan base?
Yeah, I just say this: that's a really good football team. None of that really matters. What matters is how you perform during the week and how you play on Sunday, Pat, as you know. Again, we're in a competitive industry, an emotional industry, but the most important thing is doing your job leading up to Sunday, and then also going out there and playing well on Sunday. Making tackles, taking care of the football, communicating well in a loud environment, being productive on early downs, trying to stay out of third and long, trying to get them into third and long, playing good on special teams, tackling mems. Those are the things that matter.
So that's what Dable had to say, and one of his responses was to a tweet that was sent out as well by Nick Bonito, another player on the Broncos, who simply just called the Giants fan base delusional. He said, "I've never seen such a delusional fan base." So calling out a delusional fan base, but obviously his grammar is not correct here. He said, "I've never seen such delusional fan base." He's definitely missing A in there, but he wants to call us delusional. But that's all the controversy that's going into this week's game, and I think it's definitely going to make it an interesting game on Sunday.
Yeah, because Thibodeau and Burns already responded. I think they deleted their responses, but they both did respond. So it's going to get crazy. The funny thing is that I found about this whole thing is that Jonathan Cooper, this dude is 27 years old. I'm pretty sure Jackson Dart's like 24. Why is he trying to sun him, calling him like, oh, he's a young kid? Bro, you guys are like 2 years apart. Like this is hilarious. But I think this controversy does just bring more excitement to the game, especially for us as fans. I think the players, obviously, I feel like there's always going to be excitement with the players because they're young. And we have a young team now, obviously led by two young players. So there's always going to be excitement, but I feel like this added on some more excitement. So I'm excited to see, man, what next week brings. I do not think that the Giants will win the game, but I do think they will play really good. So I'm kind of excited to see that, and hopefully they can shock the world because they're underdogs again, and I think let me just search up the percentage real quick, but I think everyone predicted the Bengals, the Broncos would win this
Broncos
game.
to win. Yeah. We'll get into our score predictions towards the end, but with this controversy, I mean, I think it's going to fire up the players. Like he said, Thibodeau and Burns replied. I think Thibodeau said something. He put out like a GIF or whatever from Denzel Washington, being like, "All right, okay, all right." So the Giants are going to come to play, and this team's been full of energy all year, and the Broncos could talk whatever they want to talk. They can talk hot, whatever they want to do. But at the end of the day, like Dable said, it comes down to how they play on Sunday. And, if the Giants are going to respond to what they're saying, to what these Broncos players are saying, they got to go out there and they got to prove it on Sunday, and they need to get a dub. And honestly, I have so much confidence in this team to get a dub against the Broncos. I think the Broncos, they're poking the bear right now. The Giants are firing on all cylinders right now. And if it wasn't for those turnovers against the Saints, we could be looking at Dart being undefeated. But at the end of the day, they've been playing really good football. They're coming off of a win against the Super Bowl reigning champions. And the Broncos are coming off of a win against the Jets where they didn't really look that good. The defense looked good, but the offense wasn't there. So it's going to be interesting to see how this week goes for the Giants. But I have all the confidence in the world that Jackson Dart could shut the mouths of these Broncos players.
Agreed. That's a good point that you mentioned that the Broncos. I feel like the Broncos in the last couple of weeks they haven't been playing great football at all. Like they barely beat the Eagles a couple of weeks ago, but before that, I
That
feel
was
like
a fourth quarter comeback, yeah.
yeah, that was a fourth quarter comeback. Before that, the Colts mopped the floor with them, and then they just eke out victories against bad teams. So the defense can talk though, so that's why the defense has been talking. Like Benito and Cooper and all those guys, they can talk because they've been doing their thing. But I feel like the Broncos as a whole, I don't really see why they're doing all this. But all they're doing is stirring the pot a little bit for the Giants, who are coming in hot, like you mentioned. So this should be a good game. I think it's going to be a lot closer than people think. Right now, it says it's leaning towards the Broncos, 69-31 on ESPN. But I do think the Giants. I'm excited. I'm excited for this game. I think this is one of the more huger games this season because they do. I think they play. Who they play after? They play the Eagles and then the
The
49ers.
Eagles. Yep.
Uh huh.
The Eagles again. I mean, this Giants team has looked good coming into this week. Jackson Dart, Cam Scatterbo, and Abdul Carter all landed in ESPN's top 10 rookies of 2025 through the first 6 weeks. Obviously, with the Emeka Egbuka injury in Tampa Bay, this is opening the door for Jackson Dart to possibly win Offensive Rookie of the Year, and Abdul Carter looks like he could potentially win Defensive Rookie of the Year. So the Giants are looking good there. And obviously, the reason why the Giants have been playing so good is because of the quarterback play they've gotten out of Jackson Dart. So the media actually asked Mike Kafka, who's our offensive coordinator, about the impact of Jackson Dart and his vibe throughout the organization. And this is what Kafka had to say.
Yeah, whenever your leadership and the quarterback, particularly because he's touching the ball every play, when you have that kind of spark, you have that kind of energy that you bring not only just to the huddle, to the field, but when you're like that way in the meetings and you're like that way in the hallway, in the locker room, and talking with the coaches and talking with the staff and talking with the people around the building, absolutely, it raises everyone's level.
And that's what he had to say about Jackson Dart and his vibe throughout the season. And honestly, I don't really have anything bad to say about Jackson Dart so far. I'm hoping that he lives up to the hype again on Sunday. I'm hoping that he continues to perform well. Same thing with the other rookies, Cam Scatterbo. Reckless abandon running back out there. He's just running people over. And a thing to look forward to in Sunday's game is how Cam Scatterbo performs because we know the connection that he has with Dart. And after these Broncos players are throwing a little bit of shade and talking crap about Jackson Dart, it's going to be interesting to see how Dart and Scadaboo respond. But before we get into our predictions, I do want to talk about one more thing real quick. And it's the fact that the Giants are heavily, heavily in talks about acquiring a wide receiver.
Yeah, I was about to mention that.
And this would be a huge addition to this team, a huge addition for Dart, because obviously with the Neighbors injury, Slayton is a little bit banged up. Obviously, you got to move Wandale to the wide receiver one. We got some good production out of guys like Lil Jordan Humphrey in the win against the Eagles, but you can't expect that on a week-to-week basis. So the guy that really is looking like the number one trade target for the Giants right now is Jalen Waddle, wide receiver from the Dolphins. Dolphins looks to be selling probably at the deadline, especially with the Tyreek Hill injury. So what do you think about that fit, Alex? Jalen Waddle to the Giants. Do you think it's a good fit, or do you think?
I think it's a great fit for the team, and I like it in a sense of when he comes here, he gets to be the wide receiver one for this year, and then in the future he'll be the wide receiver two to Neighbors, which is nice for Dart. And I do think this getting a guy like Waddle does help Dart's development a lot because again, throwing to Rondell Robinson and Lil Jordan Humphrey your first year in the league is not that doesn't help a lot.
What I do?
Yeah, it's not ideal. So I think the deadline is November 4th. I wouldn't say I want them to trade for Waddle necessarily because I think it would take too much to get him. Some other guys that I do like though, are like Chris Olave. I like him. I think he's cheaper, and I also like Jacoby Myers from the Raiders since he's already requested a trade. This could be like a guy they give up a 4-4, and just could help Jackson Dart as well. So, but to answer your question about Jalen Waddle, I think he'd be a great fit. I just don't know if I would give up like a lot for him now. But I think guys like they need. I think they do need to get a wide receiver because I think we've had this too many times. A lot of times, especially with Daniel Jones, where the problem we always blame the offensive line, whatever. But if you look at Daniel Jones's weapons throughout his 6 years with us, it wasn't really good. I think his best weapon was his last year in Neighbors. So, like, I don't want to have that same thing with Jackson Dart. Like, I want to have our quarterback have options and not just feel like he always has to throw it to one guy or whatever the problem may be. So I think getting a wide receiver at this deadline is very beneficial. I just don't know who it is, though, right now. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, and speaking of the connection of Dart with his wide receivers, the Giants also signed Juice Wells. For those of you who don't know who he is, he was a wide receiver at Ole Miss when Jackson Dart was over there. Kind of Jackson Dart's go-to guy at Ole Miss. The Giants signed him. I think he's on the practice squad right now. It's going to be interesting to see if he gets any sort of reps and what that's going to look like and if it's going to affect Dart's game or anything like that. But Dart is starting to build some connections. Wandale Robinson, obviously we know about the Theo Johnson connection. Obviously he had something going with Lil Jordan Humphrey. But Dart's been playing a really good quarterback, and he needs to continue doing that into Sunday's game against the Broncos. The number one defense in the league, the number one pass rush in the league, pass coverage team in the league. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see how the Giants offense approaches this game. I think you're going to see a lot of Wandale Robinson in this game trying to play make and, pass the ball in the backfield and try to create plays. But we're going to see what Dart does with his legs. He's got to stay safe, of course. Obviously, we had that big scare against the Eagles, which is another problem that the Giants are dealing with now with apparently, them rushing the concussion protocols and all that to get Dart back into the game. So we're going to see what the fine or the penalty is for them doing that against the Eagles. But I think that's going to take us to our score predictions for this Sunday's game.
Did they elevate Juice Wells or no?
I don't believe they did.
That line to elevate him. So I don't even know if he's going to be like playing or not. They'll probably just go to Hello Jordan Humphrey and stuff like that and Buick's Collins again. But it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, he just got elevated to the practice squad.
That was it? Yeah, damn. So probably not this week, but
yeah, he might not be ready this week, but possibly against the Eagles. We'll see there. Slayton, I believe, is out again this week.
Yeah, let's actually check that before we get into it.
Check up on the Slayton injury as well. See if he's going to be available this weekend. And he missed practice yesterday.
Yeah, he continues to miss practice. Yeah, it looks like he's done.
So it looks like he's not going to be available this week either. So it looks like it's going to be similar
and John Mitchell,
guys.
Yeah.
that played against the Eagles. So, yeah, he's looking doubtful to play on Sunday. So, technically, he's not out of it, but you probably won't see a lot of Darius Slayton on Sunday as well. So, this is going to be a tough game. This is going to be a tough game for the Giants. They're really going to have to play their A game because the Broncos are going to bring it on Sunday, especially that defense. So, we have to continue to see how the secondary is going to play as well, because obviously that has been a question mark. Cordell Flott had the big pick against the Eagles, but can the Giants get another takeaway on Sunday? That's another big question mark, because takeaways have been the problem for the Giants.
For a
They
while.
need to get more takeaways. So let's see if they can do that on Sunday against Bo Nix. But Alex, I'm going to start with you. What is your score prediction for the Giants, who will be taking on the Broncos on Sunday? It will be a 4:05 start, and the game is in Denver.
I was trying to pull up the score predictions by I think CBS and stuff just to like call out those a little bit, but everyone has the Broncos winning. So I'm gonna go with the Broncos winning this game, but I think it's gonna be very close. I think they only win by 3. I have them winning 24-21.
That's a good score prediction. I think it could definitely be in that sort of range
Mm-hmm.
of the score. But I do think the Giants are going to come out on top. I really do believe in Dart. I really do believe in Dart and his abilities.
I like it.
Even in the loss against the Saints, it really was just the turnovers. But I really haven't seen Dart struggle to get the ball down the field. And this is obviously going to be a test. The number one pass rushing team. So I don't expect Jackson Dart and the Giants to score 30-plus points.
Mm-hmm.
I do expect them to be in that 17 to 27 range. That's kind of where I think they're going to sit in terms of their victory. But for my score prediction, I'm going to have the Giants winning, and I'm going to have them winning by a score of 23-17. I think the defense is going to have a big day. I like what the defense is going to show us. I think on Sunday, Bo Nix has been struggling. The offense has been struggling to get going for the Broncos, and the Giants are obviously a tough defense to face. And I think Dart gets the job done. So I'm going to go 23-17. Giants get the victory. And that means with a victory, they would move to 3-4. With a loss, they'll move to 2-5 if the Broncos were to win. It's going to be a big game
It is.
because if they want to have something left in their season, they're going to have to play well down the stretch. But I think that's going to do it for us here. Thank you guys for watching. We will see you guys in the next video. Peace out.
Peace.
Peace. Let's go, G-Men.
Go Giants.